Right. Hello, everybody. This is our Astro Energy Forecast for the upcoming week. We are coming in after the Scorpio full moon, and we have some important astrology that is going to continue to ripple out into our week ahead. So we're going to be covering that. If you don't know me or haven't seen me before, my name is Camille Craft. I'm the owner and creator of Vital Mystic, and I do these every week just to give you a little bit of insight about what type of rituals to be doing and what to be focusing on, as well as how to move through the current astrology. So yesterday was a Scorpio full moon. It was an incredible full moon. It trined both Saturn and Neptune. And there was a moment of probably deep recognition. I'm getting obviously mixed reviews from people that, yeah, it was awesome, or brought up a lot of things for you. And Scorpio it just isn't the sign to fuck around. It really isn't. It really is the sign that says, hey, here's a mirror. This is exactly what you need to look at if you actually want to bring something different in your life. And so the beautiful part about that is that with Scorpio invites us to remember how powerful we are and that we can transform any, pain, anything that we've gone through into gold, right? Ultimately, that essence of the alchemist. So as we come from that post full moon, we are going to be spending 2 weeks in the waning moon cycle. Typically, when we're looking at ritual, we will want to focus on release work. That's not necessarily a rule. And I'm going to give you some pointers or dates specifically on how the other planetary transits are moving and how to use that. So right now we have Sagittarius waning moon. Typically when in my ritual practice, when I work with a Sagittarius waning moon, I look at the ways that I'm hitting the brake pedal. So this can be in your thoughts, it can be in your beliefs, it can be in ways that we are making certain choices. Are we doing any form of self-sabotage? What are the things that are kind of coming up? And just, when we come from a full moon, you might feel energized or you might just feel tired, and allowing yourself to kind of tune into those energies and what it means for you. Typically, especially with this last full moon, there probably was a really significant clearing. And sometimes, whenever you do like a detox or you do like a cleanse or something, you're probably not going to have the greatest energy levels. But really allowing your body to facilitate new results is by clearing out the old. So we can't necessarily open new doors if we still have those old tendrils kind of still coming in. So with that said, when the waning moon in Sagittarius is present, we want to look at, okay, what are the things or what are the actions that I'm actually not taking that would tell the universe that I am ready to receive this result, right? So a lot of times those actions are probably going to be the things that we've been putting on the back burner. They're going to be things that we've been avoiding, those things that we say that we don't have time for. Whatever those things are, whatever tiny little actions that you can do, that's probably going to open, more of the energy flow as we get closer to the Gemini new moon and as we get closer to the really powerful astrology happening in June for wealth. Some of the most powerful astrology all year for wealth and creating wealth in your life is happening in June. So make sure to stay in tune with that. Um, we will then have a waning moon in Capricorn beginning on the 15th. So that as we have waning moon in Capricorn, this really brings in a different stage, right? So waning moon in Capricorn is like, okay, what are the actions or things that I'm not, doing? What are the ways that I'm kind of brake pedaling my success or the things that I'm avoiding? And then waning moon in Capricorn really asks us to, if you are very serious about your goals, what is like the type of mindset or structure that might be limiting that? So a lot of the things that obviously it's like, oh, am I not taking the right aligned actions or am I taking too many actions, right? And what are the things that are just kind of spinning my wheels? A lot of times when we have a waning moon in Capricorn, it will bring in the shadow of Capricorn. So being focused on the external result, like ultimately, coming in from the essence of why is it not here yet? Where do I need to restructure on my daily tasks? Like what are the things that I need to review within myself, right? Or if we are kind of having like an emotional constipation moment, like what are the emotions that I actually just need to feel right now? So as we come later into the week, we will have have a Uranus Cazimi, and this is something I'm going to release a post about in the coming hours. But ultimately, Uranus Cazimi, this is going to be the last one in Taurus. So Uranus travels in each sign for about 7 years, and a Cazimi is when a particular transit enters the heart of the sun. And what happens is that particular transit and its energies get amplified. And when we are looking at that as far as ritual or astrology, we want to be aware of the different cycles that are currently evolving in our life. So Uranus has been in Taurus since 2018, like May 15th, I believe, 2018. So I want you to think about where you were in 2018. I want you to think about 7 years ago, and what has come to fruition for that, specifically around your finances, your money, and your self-worth. And so those three topics, what you are doing right now, and because this is the last Cazimi, before Uranus moves into Gemini. Ultimately, what this really represents is closing those old doors, right? Those old ways of being, those old ways, those timelines, anything around your self-worth, money, or foundation. And so when we're looking at this as far as people who are using energetics to create their wealthiest timelines or reverse engineer your destiny, what you really want to pay attention to is kind of the version of yourself that you were 7 years ago, and almost thinking about who you are today. And if you could write a letter to that version of yourself, what would you tell them? Right? What are the things that they overcame or transmuted or created? Right? Like I think about 7 years ago, and that's actually when I first started and had the idea for Vital Mystic, right? And it's been this crazy journey since then. And so now 7 years later, it was not a trajectory that, where I'm at now, I never could have predicted, but it's way better than I could have imagined, right? And so when we move through a catalyst like that and like a 7 year cycle, I don't know if anyone's heard of a 7 year cycle, but typically that's when we start to have a lot of transformation. So because this is the last wealth Cazimi, Uranus and Taurus, this is bringing in new ways of dancing with that, right? So what are the new chapters? Like, where are you going to be in 7 years from now, right? What are the stories that you're going to breakthrough stories, the pivotal changes, the choices that you're making that are very, kind of setting you on a certain trajectory. And Uranus is really this essence of breakthrough, but it also can look like a breakdown, right? And I'm just going to tell you right now, like the choices I had to make 7 years ago to set myself free to do this path of Vital Mystic was I had to walk away from very toxic relationships. I had to decide to choose, myself and decide that I was going to create something. Right around that same time, I had the choice to sign rights of my idea of Vital Mystic 50% over to somebody. And it just like, in my body, my intuition was telling me not to do it, even though it was literally not nothing, but it was an idea back then, right? So it wasn't built. So I think about that, and I think about that version of Camille who made those brave choices to go out on her own and who didn't have like a secondary income lined up or any of those things, right? It would have been a very easy choice to stay in that situation that was comfortable and safe and familiar. But that version of myself decided to just lean in without any, like, I didn't know where I was going to live. I didn't have stable income, like nothing. And things just started to line up. And this is like a big piece that, yes, 7 year cycles for sure. So this is a big piece that I always say for people because all it takes is one decision, but most of the time you're going to know it's the right decision. And it's a big one that is a huge catalyst for you because one, the things are not working the way that they were working, right? Things start to slow down. Like for me during that time, my finances started to slow down. Like just like my body started to slow down. My hormones were really off balance because my body was trying to tell me something that it was time to go, right? And so I put it off, put it off, put it off, put it off. Hopefully this will come back. Reconnecting. Let's see. Let's see if we can go back and on. Let's see if that works. Okay. Well, it says okay, I can still see you guys. All right, there we go. So, with that said, those pivotal choices that are very scared, right? It wasn't a perfect situation. Oh my gosh, all these things now are going to happen, of course, all right, there we go. Um, these pivotal choices are not made when we are all glorious, right? It's not rainbows and fucking unicorns. And those pivotal choices are made when we have to bet on ourselves. And I'm really grateful that the universe conspired in my favor and set me up with roadblock after roadblock after roadblock because I would have never made the choice to invest in Vital Mystic and an idea and made those choices, right? So a lot of times our quantum leaps are actually disguised as tower moments. And this is something, yes, 100%. This is why I'm bringing this up today because I have been receiving a lot of messages from various different people, friends, clients, whatever, when we're kind of in that breakdown moment and it feels like nothing is working. It feels like we're never going to get there. And we can get really, really into the shame spiral. And that's one of the biggest things that Taurus teaches us is that, really and helps and Scorpio helps us move through is that, you know, you're perfect where you are, but it will take an investment and an action in a way in a belief in yourself in order to create a different result. And 99% of the time, I'm going to say it's going to scare the shit out of you. And it's going to be the thing that one probably is not logical. And two, everyone else, let's just see if this is going to come back. If not, I'm going to disconnect and then come back on. Man, we're just having terrible. Let's see if it comes back or not. Okay, let's try that again. We're just gonna keep on going. Whenever we're making those decisions, I always just want to say it's like there has to be a breakdown because ultimately, why else would we listen, right? Why else would we listen to that next stage of our life or that tiny whisper or make those pivotal decisions? And, a lot of times I think we're taught to look at the breakdown as punishment, but it's not. It's actually reworking. And if we can recognize not every, like literally every quantum leap I've ever had in my life, there was always a breakdown moment. Every single one. And I just had to keep leaning in, and every single one also kept bringing me back to a deeper connection with myself and trusting myself. So, why I'm sharing this story is because had I never taken that jump and I didn't know what was going to happen from that space. But had I never taken that jump and consistently kept jumping, and kept listening to myself, especially when people told me it wasn't going to work, it doesn't like I had like so many, my silly little rituals weren't going to work, blah, blah, blah. All these people who said that, all sorts of shit to me throughout the journey. If I would have listened, we wouldn't be here and I wouldn't be having the life that I have. So when we are looking at breakdowns, I really, really want you to take some time this week, especially with the Cazimi that's happening, is what is the timeline that is seeding for me right now? Why am I going through this breakdown? Because all the stuff of how I used to source my safety, how I used to source my power, how I used to source my wealth is starting to fall away. And the only thing that we have left is ourselves, right? And so when we go through something like that, it is very scary and it can be very triggering and can be like, oh my God, what's happening? But really, that's all just coming back into the essence of who you are. It's an invitation to deepen your self-trust and to listen, right? To listen and get very, very quiet. So when we have this Uranus Cazimi on the 17th, that's what I want you to do. And so ultimately, when we are moving between timelines, in order to open the new doors, we have to let the old things collapse, right? And what is the number one way of getting people to listen? If you were like trying to communicate with somebody who's not listening, and you're like, who has a bigger purpose or life or trajectory, what do you think the universe is going to do? It's going to say, hey, stop paying attention to this relationship, get out of this job, do this, like that breakdown. It has to break everything else down around you so that you catalyze that deeper connection and that you hear the messages that are coming through for you specifically. So, with that said, this is the last Uranus Cazimi, and what it really brings up is your self-worth. Like we have been talking about it on this platform for weeks now, right? One of the first ritual series I ever led was on self-worth, and self-worth is going to give you like the catalyst that you need to create those next level moves in your life. And so I want you to think on the 17th, if I was opening a timeline 7 years from now and I was looking back from my life 7 years from now, from the actions either I am taking or I'm about to take, are they in alignment with the vision I am creating in my life? Right? Are they in alignment with the vision that I am creating or the vision that I desire in my life in 7 years from now? And you think 7 years is a long time, but it's not. It really goes like this, right? And so when we think about that, Uranus will move into Gemini. It's going to move into a new sign. It will have a retrograde period, but this is our last Cazimi in this particular sign, in this particular transit in our lifetime. So when we're thinking about it, this literally is the point in which you rewrite the story or you finish the story of how you place your self-worth outside of you, whether that is in a bank account, a job, a relationship, anything along those lines, right? And when those things are catalyzing very quickly and they're moving very quickly and it's triggering a lot of pain or whatever it is, I want you to go down into that space because we can theorize all we want. We can do all the things, all the actions, but that's not going to take away the feeling of you needing to come into yourself and recognize how worthy you actually are, right? And to really know that and to have choices from that. And so, I think about that time in my life and on paper, external, I'm like, oh man, your life's a mess. But now I look back and I was like, dang, I really needed those moments, those like truth bombs, those, like jump, that moment of leaping when I had nothing left to lose, basically, because I needed to see how powerful the universe had my back. And in scaling a business or going towards a life that any of us haven't, created or haven't had anyone else create around us, we have to come into that space of trust with the universe, right? We have to trust ourselves too. And that essence, and I will tell you, this is like one of the first times I ever really, really like really trusted my intuition, which was I didn't have a job, I didn't have a place to live, and I needed to leave this really long-term kind of toxic relationship. And I jumped and I ended it. And within literally 30 minutes, I hadn't even told anyone I had broken up with this person. 30 minutes, somebody calls me up like, hey, are you looking for a place to live? I shit you not. I shit you not. So that's what I'm saying is like, don't underestimate the power that you have to change your life. And this Uranus Cazimi is about that. It's about that leaping off point. It is about being able to set up a new timeline by doing the things that scare the shit out of us, by knowing that we are worthy before the results are already there. It's like we're kind of like hovering. Like when I tune into it, I'm like, it's kind of like this left path and like we've been moving forward and that path stops and we're not like, we can't see it. But if we're like, okay, I'm going to follow this left path that's never been carved before because where I've been going and how I've been going isn't working anymore, then we start to move in that different way. And what happens with that is that you actually begin to accelerate. Different things start to come to you because you start to see yourself moving in a different way. Your subconscious sees you in a different way. And then you are able to have a deeper trust and knowing of what it's like to know and see, okay, well, I'm preparing for a new timeline, one, breakdown. Two is I can trust myself and I know that the universe has my back as long as I am listening to what is actually going on. Because a lot of times we talk ourselves out of these decisions that are really pivotal for our lives and we put it off and we put it off and we put it off and we put it off, right? Which was me, right? I put it off to the very last moment, right? And until basically it felt like I was moving through mud every single day of my life. And with that said, then I made that choice, right? So just listen into that because what is opening right now and what is closing, doors are closing with this last Cazimi, right? The way the chapters that you've been dancing with. can't take that stuff with you, right? If we open up, those next stages of our life, then we need to allow for ourselves to trust and to move in a way that we've never moved before. So with that said, we have Moon in Aquarius on May 17th as well. And as we roll into the weekend, it's going to be an incredible, just kind of breakthrough moment, probably a very pivotal moment for many of you. So I would tune in, make sure that you're tapping into your visionary essence. This is not something that necessarily other people are going to approve of. This is not something that we're going to validate with the current economy or our current circumstances, our current relationships. It's something that has to come from within. And it's a pivotal choice that whatever it is, a breakthrough moment of, the way that you look at yourself, the way that you look at your power, the way that you move in the world, whatever it is, the way that you move in your business, whatever it is, it's a specific choice and it's a leaping off point. So as we come into the later part of the year, we will have Uranus going back into Taurus. And the reason why I say this now, and I'm going to give you guys a ritual in a couple hours in a post I'm going to post up. But in that post, I have you go through a ritual process because when Uranus goes retrograde from, I think it's like November to April, this is going to clear the path for you not to have to deal with these tendrils again, right? So that's the whole point of let's make the choices now so then we don't have to deal with it later. Because when it goes retrograde, if we didn't tie up the loose ends then that's going to be the moment where it really starts to break down because that's the last retrograde and then the forward momentum into Uranus and Gemini. So your overall theme for this week is to break down, to break through. That's it. And the only way that we can get through the breakdown is by actually feeling into our emotions. It's actually doing the deeper inner work of what is happening for us and then catalyzing from that space. What is an action I have never taken before? What is an action that I'm being led to take right now? And what is something that I've been avoiding doing because I'm afraid of what's going to happen on the other side, and taking that action in a way now or by this weekend so that you can open up that new wealth timeline for yourself because new doors are coming. So thank you everybody for joining me here. We do have a really special masterclass coming up on the Gemini new moon. You can comment scale or gold. It is specifically for unlocking your wealthiest timeline based on the keys of your birth chart. So you do not want to miss this one. It's going to be super juicy. And we're going to be sending it out to everybody on the new moon in Gemini, which is roughly about a little less than 2 weeks from today. So I hope you all have an incredible week and I will see you and talk to you soon. Bye, everybody.